It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Breakfast. Yes, as we unpack the Australian property market for you, one conversation at a time. And we've got another conversation coming up in just a moment from Brisbane, and another weekend that is looming large. Also coming up, we've got another suburb spotlight, one suburb, one story, and it is coming from Croydon this morning in Melbourne. It is a Friday, August the 28th. Birthday and celebrations. If you're celebrating your birthday, you are sharing it with Shania Twain, the country music pop crossover artist. She's turning 61 today. One of my favourite directors, David Fincher, he is turning 64. Everybody's favourite, Jack Black, a year older, 57. And it was on this day back in 1997, Netflix was actually founded in California. Netflix didn't end up launching until 2007. Their streaming catalogue back in 2007 was around 900 movies and shows. And talking of movies, as some of you will know, I'm a filmmaker, having made 2 feature films, and we're going to share one of my films with you. This is coming up on September the 25th. And so we're going to have a movie weekend. You'll be able to watch that film absolutely free at home. And if you want to receive the free movie link, then you email to myrealestatepodcast@gmail.com. We're going to send out the link to you on September the 24th, but we are limiting that to 500 free tickets. Let's go to Brisbane and catch up with Brett Greensill from McGrath. And Brett, you were saying, yes, count me in. You want one of those free tickets?
Yes, Craig, that sounds fabulous. What's the film about?
The film is actually based on a true story, and it is set in the 60s. Yes, so let's, first off, Brett, let's talk about Brisbane's median house price, because that has slipped back to just over $1 million. But I think some people sort of mistake that small fall for somewhat of a collapse, which isn't the case, because Brisbane prices still remain over 78% higher than 5 years ago.
No, absolutely not. Brisbane is a great investment location. It's the spotlight city where the Olympics coming. So, everybody's interested. At the end of the day, you've got to live somewhere. And as the city goes, it's a very livable and happy place to live.
And as far as sellers are concerned, they're not desperate, because many are still pretty comfortable ahead of their mortgages. Some people might find that strange to say, because there are arrears that are being reported, but it's the old thing, isn't it? Sellers want yesterday's prices, buyers want tomorrow's prices. And in all of that mix, could that standoff, do you think, keep Brisbane quiet?
Well, I think so, because the market has moved upwards so significantly that the sellers do have some margin, even if their properties come down in value by 2 or 3% after it went up 78 in the last few years. The buyers will find that when they go into negotiations with the seller, there is no pressure or very little pressure on the sellers, and that's going to keep the negotiations in a standby for a while.
Obviously, it's softening, but if you look underneath, and there are these areas like Booval, that is up 31% annually. Runcorn, 31%. Burpengary East, 29%. So it's hardly like these numbers are going backwards everywhere.
No, that's exactly right. And a lot of these suburbs were coming from a very low base compared with, say, Sydney. And a lot of those people haven't sold, and they've stayed ahead of their mortgages. So as I say to you, there's no pressure on them. Of course, there are always some people who find themselves in trouble, but the vast majority of the market, the sellers are in a very strong position.
And let's talk about the new listings, because they've actually increased 6.6% over the year, while total properties available jumped by 17.7%. What's happening around all of these new listings?
Well, I think what happens is that people don't want to be out of the market. Many people have to sell to buy, and so they fear that if they sell too soon, then they'll miss out on significant capital growth, and then that will jeopardise their position getting back into the market. The vibe is that the market is probably at the top, or at least staying stable now. So that's a good reason to come back onto the market, sell your home, and then buy back in, either downsizing or right-sizing or moving interstate or whatever you're doing with some confidence. I would imagine that is the primary reason why listings are up.
And what is something that has sort of gone across your radar in the last 2, 3, 4 months that you've thought, gee, that's kind of surprising? You know, it might be an area that you're dealing with. It might be some sentiment, some feedback that you're hearing from buyers and sellers. Does something sort of bubble to the surface as far as that's concerned?
I've noticed increasingly this necessity for social proof. So what happens is a buyer needs to know that someone else wants to buy the property too. They don't want to buy something because it builds confidence that the price they're going to offer is good. And it kind of backfires on them, because when they negotiate at the beginning of the campaign, a single buyer, they're probably in a strong position to determine the value of the property. But by waiting, looking for this social proof, the agent, if they're good, seeks another buyer, and now we have a multiple buyer situation, which is why I say it backfires a little on the first buyer, because they end up in a multi-offer situation, and so the price comes back up to where the seller is comfortable. I've seen that now, for the last few months. This requirement for social proof is quite interesting.
And one of the talking points also in that same vein, we've been talking about how when the market comes down, buyers often say, I just don't want to buy at the moment. They go very insular, which is kind of weird. How has that been in your market where you are?
Oh, absolutely the same. I mean, the Prime Minister said just recently first home buyers it was better for them because they weren't in competition with investors. Well, actually, they're not in competition with anybody, because, generally a first home buyer will ask the bank of mum and dad, or at least others who have been in the market, is now a good time to buy? And people don't say, yes, absolutely. They all say, well, I'm waiting to see what happens, and, it's not sure, or, there's some uncertainty about it. So you'll find that the first home buyers aren't making the strong play into the market that was predicted. That's another reason why the market is a little quiet.
We are talking to Brett. He is in Brisbane giving us a lay of the land. When we come back, Brett has a description for what buyers are doing right now in the property market. We'll talk about that after this.
Every morning from 6 a.m, we bring you the latest real estate news with diverse perspectives from leading industry experts. We deliver the most property podcasts across Australia every week.
Are we effectively restricting the amount of housing available before construction even begins?
Look, that's a really good question, Craig, and we see in the report that this is really occurring at 3 levels. So the first is in the land use supply rules. Then there's the approvals process, which can be slow and take people a long time and require lots of referrals and cost. And then there's also the connections to important infrastructure, transport, utilities and the like.
I think the report is also saying that the housing supply isn't just a property issue. It is an overall economic issue for the country at large.
Absolutely, Craig. So if people can live close to family and to work and other connections, we know it is better all around. It's better for the community and it's better for the economy. Things that, for example, require a certain number of car parking spaces, certain sizes of apartments, things that people should be able to choose for themselves.
Listen to expert perspectives with exclusive real estate conversations and supercharge your knowledge base with us.
All right, it is time right now to have a look at the Suburb Spotlight. One suburb, one story, and this morning it is Croydon in Melbourne. Now, let's have a look at the snapshot here. The latest numbers from realestate.com.au. First, let's have a look at the houses in Croydon. The median house price is $954,000. The 12-monthly growth is at plus 7%. Units in Croydon, $725,000. And the 12-month growth also 7%. The house figure is based on 353 sales over the past 12 months, while the unit figure is based on 286 sales. The broader Croydon profile gives houses a 3.9% rental yield and the units 4.5% yield, with median selling times, days on market, around 26 days for houses and 27 days for units. It is a Real Estate Friday. We are looking ahead to another weekend. Brett is with us. He is in Brisbane. And Brett, you've got a term for what is going on at the moment. I think you call it a buyer's strike.
Yeah, absolutely. The buyers went on strike. So there were 6 hits to the economy: 3 interest rate rises, war in Iran, petrol spiking, which caused cost of living, and then the budget. So we're still talking about the budget all this many weeks later, which gives you an indication of the significance of it. And so the buyers, were told, don't buy investment property, second-hand investment properties. Your SMSFs can't be bought, can't be used to purchase new property. And so the buyers got the message and just said, okay, well, that's it. We'll close our wallets, we'll go on strike. These buyers' strikes, they happen from time to time. Floods, GFC, various things. And the question is always, what happens next? Who blinks first? Will the buyers blink or will the sellers blink first?
Now, you've been involved in different cycles. How different for you is this current property cycle that we are in, this correction in the market?
Well, I think this is in response to the longest, strongest capital growth we've seen for a long time. The growth phase of this cycle went on and on and on, much longer than perhaps it should have, or it went on longer than predicted. And so it's not surprising that the slowdown, I'm not calling it a downturn in prices, I'm just calling it a slowdown in transaction volume, is in response to that.
Yeah, and the Brisbane market, it certainly isn't one property market. The danger with talking about Brisbane as one property market is that the numbers hide enormous differences. For instance, if you look at some suburbs, they're still, as we've highlighted, posting 25 to 31% annual growth, while the city overall has paused. So, yeah, don't read, I think, is the message in that Brisbane is one market.
And even micro markets within markets. In New Farm here, where I do a lot of business, the riverfront apartment market is extremely strong because it's still being fed by people essentially downsizing at the, later stages of their lives. So, that cycle continues irrespective of market forces. Whereas if you are a young person trying to do a renovation on your home, you'll find it difficult to get builders and architects and the costs of the construction, etc., lined up. So that sector of the market is more difficult.
Yes, micro markets. That's exactly right. That's what you should be digging into. A lot further, you will understand the nuances from suburb to suburb. Hey, we'll leave it there. Brett, great to catch up with you. We will fire out when the time is right for that movie pass. Enjoy the weekend coming up.
Thanks. Good to be with you. Always a pleasure.
Every morning from 6 a.m. across Australia, we deliver you the latest property news, commentary and predictions from Perth to Cairns and from Melbourne to Brisbane, 7 days a week.
And they're waiting for somebody else to blink first. This whole, I'm going to wait for somebody else, man, to blink first. I'm not going to do it.
Oh, Craig, look, it's an interesting comment. And in any market, whether it's a terrific market, clearance rate sitting at high 80%, whether it's sitting at 30%, 40% where we're sitting now, that will always transpire. Some buyers, generally a lot of the buyers, will always want to hold back, but there is a lot of instances that we're turning up to those auctions with only one buyer, and then it goes straight into a conversation rather than an auction itself.
When you're talking to vendors around the fact that they're cashing out of Sydney, they're moving maybe to the Gold Coast, maybe to Brisbane, maybe regionally into New South Wales.
Look, to be honest, Craig, I haven't seen too much of it. I've seen it more sideways steps, whether it's reducing mortgages or whether it's selling those investments. Over the last few months, I've seen investors sell out of this marketplace, but there's not too many people that I'm seeing moving complete different regional areas, whether it's north, south or west.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.